Lenten season is predominantly a season of reflections. Reflections that increase the intensity of our prayer. Reflections that empathize ourselves with the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Reflections that root us in spiritual attachment and material detachment. Concurrently, today's gospel is an invitation to all of us to differentiate what is spiritual and what is material. In most cases, we are able to make a clear distinction between spiritual elements and material elements. But as a matter of fact, it's very challenging to give up the material desires in order to embrace the spiritual wealth. I reiterate the example of St. Francis de Sales. He says, during the springtime, a hunting dog cannot trace the other animals or smell the other animals. It's because during the springtime, the plants and flowers are in their full bloom. They produce variety of smells to such an extent that the hunting dogs cannot follow the smell of other animal. It is the case with the people who have great desire for worldly things. Since they love the material wealth, worldly possessions, they cannot desire and love what is holy, heavenly, and spiritual wealth. Surprisingly, this is not the tendency of our own time too. This tendency was found even among the disciples of Jesus Christ. In today's gospel, Jesus told the disciples of his upcoming sufferings and death, which would bring salvation to the humanity. But they failed to grasp the extraordinary message from Jesus Christ. Their image of Jesus was a political liberator. For them, Jesus was soon going to inaugurate a political regime where enormous power and authority will be available. Those who would be close to Jesus would occupy a place of high status and privilege. That being the case, the mother of James and John requested Jesus, declared that these two sons of mine will sit, one at your right hand and the other at your left hand in your kingdom. The intention behind this request is the inordinate ambition for power, prestige, privileges, authorities, and so on. When the other disciples heard this, they were indignant because they thought that James and John may enjoy the highest privileges in the kingdom of Christ and consequently dominate the rest of them. Right at this time, Jesus made them understand that these are the desires of the flesh. These are the material elements. These are temporary and non-permanent. They will perish and decay. Here Jesus asked the disciples, are you able to drink the cup that I am able to drink? Here Jesus speaks of the cup of suffering. Jesus introduces the suffering as a spiritual wealth because the reward of our suffering is our salvation. St. Francis de Sales as well speaks in same tone. He says, we must work out our salvation by sufferings, trials, bearing insults, conflicts, and troubles. St. Francis de Sales further says, suffering is like a woman who has a labor pain. She undergoes a lot of pain, but when she sees the face of the child, she is filled with joy. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, we should always face the sufferings with courage and a lot of joy in our hearts, because suffering is the way to salvation. Amen.